feel like you were better than Jordan?
I always felt like there was nobody better if I played the way I should have played.
Okay.
If I come out and compete, it's going to be very few guys better. And if they are, you shake their hand and say, congrats.
But you don't go, now you don't look and say, yeah, Michael was better than me. You feel like,
Let me tell you something. What I feel like is I can compete with anybody. I mean, obviously that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
But it's all about performance. You know, the difference is if you're taking...
Clyde Drexler just said the thing almost nobody around the league has the guts to say out loud. According to Drexler, LeBron James hasn't earned respect the way Michael Jordan did. And this wasn't some accidental slip of the tongue. This moment wasn't twisted by headlines or clipped out of context. Drexler looked straight into the camera in early 2025 and said it with complete confidence. The reaction hit the internet like a thunderclap. Fans instantly split into two loud camps, former players started quietly choosing sides, and LeBron, absolute silence. But here's the part most people still haven't heard. What Drexler said before those viral words might be even more explosive, and somehow it never made the big media rounds. So if you think you already know this story, think again, because this situation goes way deeper than highlight clips and social media debates.
12-time All-Star. I'm an All-NBA player. Yes, I went to the finals, didn't win, but come on, bruh. Don't just dismiss me like I was the 13th guy on the bench. And so for me, Skip, I was glad Clyde stood up for himself. And I guess from the documentary that was edited out, a lot of other people stood up for themselves too. But we didn't get an opportunity to see that. That did with Skip. Because The Last Dance supposedly been about the Chicago Bulls and The Last Dance. It turned into Michael Jordan's swan song.
The whole thing actually started in a calm, almost routine way. Early in 2025, Clyde Drexler sat down for what everyone expected to be a normal legacy interview. You know the type. An old school legend talks about the good old days, gives a respectful nod to the modern generation, shares a few classic stories from the 90s, and everybody walks away smiling. But that is not how this one played out. Within the first few minutes, something changed. Drexler leaned forward, his eyes locked in, and the entire energy of the room shifted. This didn't look like a man casually remembering the past. This looked like someone who had been holding on to something for years and finally decided he was done holding it in. And here's the wild part. Nobody pushed him there. The interviewer didn't force the topic. Drexler himself steered the conversation straight toward LeBron James. What came next was not polished, not media trained, and definitely not something approved by a PR team. It was raw, direct, and the kind of opinion most people in the basketball world keep locked away because they know how big the backlash can get. Drexler explained that in his view, LeBron has built a career partly around controlling the story surrounding him. Then he made a comparison that immediately lit up the internet. He said the real difference between LeBron James and Michael Jordan isn't just rings, trophies, or scoring numbers. According to Drexler, it's about how you carry yourself as a competitor. It's about whether the game shapes your legacy or whether you try to shape the game around your own personal story. And then came the line that sent social media into chaos. Drexler said you can't earn respect the same way Michael Jordan did, not the way LeBron has gone about it. Just like that. No hesitation, no nervous laugh, just calm certainty. Within hours, the clip was everywhere. Sports pages, podcasts, fan debates, former players weighing in. Everybody had an opinion. Suddenly, the GOAT conversation wasn't just about championships anymore. It turned into something much more personal. What does it actually mean to earn respect in the NBA? But before digging deeper into that question, you have to understand who Clyde Drexler really is and why his words carry serious weight.
But it's all about performance. You know, the difference is if you're taking 35 shots and I'm taking 20, you're going to have more points, bottom line. But I'm going to make you work and you can't guard me. But, so you look at it from a perspective, I still can do with everything I do, no matter who's on me. What can I stop you from doing? Well, I can't stop you from getting 35 points because you're going to get a lot of attempts. But I can make you shoot a worse percentage, make you work for it. And so that's the way you think. You're going to make him.
A lot of younger fans forget this part. Drexler didn't watch Michael Jordan from a distance like a spectator. He didn't study him through highlight reels or social media edits. He experienced it face to face. He stepped onto the same court, looked Jordan directly in the eyes, and competed against one of the most relentless competitors the sport has ever seen. And Drexler wasn't just some background player either. He was a full-blown superstar, smooth, explosive, instinctive, a player who could glide across the floor and make an entire arena fall silent with one move. In a different era, Drexler might have stacked multiple championship runs purely off talent, but his era had one massive obstacle standing right in the middle of it all: Michael Jordan. When you battle greatness that closely, it leaves a different kind of understanding. Not something you read about, something you feel. The pressure, the intensity, the cost of competing at that level, it becomes part of your story. Drexler lived through that experience. So when he talks about what Jordan represented, he isn't guessing and he isn't chasing headlines. He's speaking from personal battles, from moments where careers and legacies collided right on the hardwood. That's why the basketball world paid attention when he spoke. This wasn't some loud TV personality throwing out hot takes for ratings. This was a Hall of Famer, someone who fought through the same brutal era, saying the standard was different back then. And in his eyes, that standard still matters. And that brings us back to Drexler's real point. What did he actually mean when he said you can't earn respect the way Mike did? Think about the way Jordan moved through the league. He never asked people to admire him. He never tried to carefully manage how the public saw him during his playing years. There were no mid-career documentaries shaping his image while he was still competing. No carefully designed legacy campaigns. Jordan just stepped on the floor and dominated. And the respect Jordan earned came in a way that felt almost unavoidable. You watched what he did on the court, and there was no room for debate. The reaction was automatic, pure awe. He didn't try to manufacture admiration or build a carefully managed image around himself. He simply took it from the game, possession after possession, moment after moment. People respected him because they had no other choice. That kind of greatness is rare. It's the kind that doesn't need a marketing strategy, a media rollout, or someone shaping the narrative behind the scenes. Now compare that to the path LeBron James has taken through his career. And let's be clear about something right away. Nobody reasonable is questioning LeBron's talent. The man is one of the most gifted players basketball has ever seen. His size, his strength, his understanding of the game, and the way he has stayed elite for so many years is incredible. But Drexler's argument was never about talent. His point was about conduct, about everything surrounding the talent. According to Drexler, LeBron has always been deeply involved in how his story gets told. From launching his own media company to carefully timed announcements, many of his career moves have also been about shaping the legacy that follows him. Big decisions were sometimes presented like major productions. Major team changes became headline events. Every move carried a narrative attached to it. And Drexler believes that approach has quietly changed how respect works in the modern NBA, the super team era. The huge televised announcements, the massive media attention around every career step, the careful presentation of key moments to the public. Jordan never operated that way. Back then, there were no long buildups to explain decisions or manage perception. Jordan walked into the arena, and the arena already knew what time it was. That was Drexler's real point, and it's exactly why the conversation struck such a nerve. In his view, when an athlete works that hard to guide the story around their career, it can feel like an admission that the game itself might not be enough to carry the legacy alone. And in Drexler's mind, Michael Jordan never needed that help. Not once. That's the gap he was describing. Not championships, not scoring titles, not statistical records. He was talking about something quieter and harder to measure. That unspoken respect players feel when someone's greatness is so overwhelming that no explanation is required. And here's where the interview took an even sharper turn, because Drexler didn't stop after that comparison. He started talking about the players from his own era, the ones who battled Jordan directly, the players who tried to stop him, who lost to him, who watched their championship hopes disappear because he was standing in the way. According to Drexler, every one of those players walked away from those battles with the same realization. They had witnessed something undeniable. You didn't need a documentary to explain who Michael Jordan was. You didn't need analysts breaking it down years later. When he finished competing against you, you already knew. You felt it. That feeling, Drexler said, is the part that can't be manufactured by branding, storytelling, or media strategy. Now, before we get to the reaction, and trust me, the reaction across the basketball world was intense, there's one question that sits right at the center of this whole debate. Did LeBron ever feel the need to justify his greatness? Or was he simply playing the modern game the way the modern era demands? Think about that for a second, because where you land on that question basically tells you which side of this argument you're standing on. Once the clip hit the internet, the reaction exploded almost instantly. Within hours, it had racked up millions of views. By the next morning, it was everywhere. Sports pages, basketball forums, group chats, podcasts, and debate shows. And the responses split almost perfectly down the middle. That alone tells you how sensitive this topic really is. On one side were the old school voices, former players, longtime coaches, and fans who grew up watching the game through the 80s and 90s. Their reaction wasn't shock, it was relief. You could see it in the comments. People saying things like, "Finally someone said it," and "This conversation has been overdue." To that crowd, Drexler sounded like someone opening the door to a discussion that had been quietly happening behind the scenes for years. Many people from that generation had watched the modern era reshape how greatness gets defined, and a lot of them had opinions they kept to themselves because speaking out often brings heavy criticism. You get labeled bitter, you get told you can't accept the new generation, but Drexler clearly wasn't worried about any of that. He said exactly what he believed. Now, on the other side of the internet, LeBron's supporters came in fast, and they came in strong. And that fan base is huge, loyal, passionate, and never afraid to jump into the debate. Their argument was simple. LeBron plays in a completely different era. The media world has changed. Social media changed everything. The business side of basketball is bigger than it has ever been. LeBron supporters quickly pushed back with another argument. They said comparing LeBron to Jordan using the same standards doesn't really make sense anymore. To them, it's like judging a modern 2025 quarterback using rules from a totally different era of football. The game evolves. The environment changes. Players adapt to the world they're competing in. And honestly, that point isn't completely unreasonable. But what made Drexler's comments stand out from the usual generation versus generation debate was this. He wasn't claiming LeBron is a worse player because of the era he plays in. His argument was something deeper than that. Drexler suggested that the relationship between greatness and respect has actually changed over time. And that change comes with a price that very few people in the basketball world want to openly talk about. Because once an athlete starts managing their legacy while they're still in the middle of building it, something else quietly enters the conversation: doubt. When the story around a career starts getting carefully shaped in real time, people begin asking questions. They wonder which parts are natural and which parts were guided along the way. And once doubt finds its way into the conversation, it doesn't leave easily. Around the time this interview started circulating, there were also quiet conversations happening behind the scenes. Several former players, names that had not been publicly tied to the situation, were reportedly discussing Drexler's comments privately. People close to those circles described the general feeling in a very interesting way. It wasn't that those players believed LeBron wasn't great. Nobody was denying his talent or his impact on the game. But they said there's a reason certain debates keep appearing around LeBron's career. Debates that never seem to follow Michael Jordan in the same way. And according to them, that difference isn't about dislike or jealousy. They believe it comes from the way each legacy was built. Just when the basketball world was still processing all of that, something even more surprising happened. LeBron James said absolutely nothing, and that silence stood out. Think about it for a moment. For most of his career, LeBron has never avoided speaking publicly. He's responded to criticism, shared his opinions, posted messages, and used his platform in very clear ways for years. This is someone who once openly acknowledged being one of the most talked about athletes on the planet and seemed comfortable operating inside that spotlight. So when Clyde Drexler, a Hall of Famer who battled in the same basketball world as Michael Jordan, looked straight into a camera and essentially questioned whether LeBron earned respect the traditional way, there was no reply. No statement, no post, no interview response, just silence. And that silence created even more speculation. Some people see it as a calculated decision. LeBron has been in the spotlight long enough to understand how media storms grow. Responding directly could turn one viral clip into a full-blown public feud. By staying quiet, he avoids giving the moment extra attention. In that interpretation, silence becomes a power move, a way of signaling that the comment simply isn't important enough to respond to. But there's another interpretation floating around in basketball circles, and it's a little more complicated. What if the silence isn't strategy? What if it's one of those rare situations where there simply isn't a clean response available? Because Drexler's argument isn't based on statistics, you can't pull up numbers to prove or disprove it. There's no box score that settles the question. His point is about perception, about conduct, about the feeling people have when they watch greatness unfold. And feelings are incredibly difficult to debate. Then there's a third interpretation, the one many old-school voices find the most uncomfortable. They believe the silence might reflect an awareness that the system surrounding LeBron exists for a reason. Not because the talent isn't real, his talent is undeniable, but because the modern sports world adds layers of storytelling, branding, and narrative in ways that didn't exist before. And in their view, Michael Jordan never needed those layers. His case, they argue, was built almost entirely through the game itself. None of these interpretations are easy to sit with. But that's why this moment became such a big conversation, because in the end, this situation is bigger than one interview and one quiet response. It touches on a much larger question about sports in 2025. Can greatness be carefully constructed over time? Or is true greatness something that simply forces the world to recognize it? Does the most dominant player of one generation get to define what respect looks like? Or do the legends who came before still hold that definition? And here's the question that really puts everything into perspective. If Michael Jordan had been publicly challenged like this, at the same stage of his career, by another Hall of Fame player on camera, what do you think he would have done? Because your answer to that question probably reveals exactly where you stand in this entire debate. So where does all of this leave the basketball world right now? In early 2025, Clyde Drexler lit a serious match. He said something out loud that a certain generation of basketball insiders had only been saying quietly behind closed doors for years. There was no careful wording, no soft delivery, no media polish. Drexler just laid the thought on the table, raw and direct, and walked away from it without looking back. And the reason it hit so hard, the reason people are still arguing about it, is because the comment touched something much bigger than basketball. It raised a deeper question about authenticity. Can greatness in the modern sports world simply exist on its own? Or does it always come surrounded by the massive machinery of media, branding, and storytelling? Michael Jordan represented a very specific idea of greatness. The belief that if you truly dominate the game, the world will recognize it without needing reminders. No explanations, no narrative campaigns, just the work. The court was the only stage that mattered. The performance spoke for itself, and the respect that followed felt automatic. The kind that lasts long after the final game is played. The kind of respect built through actions so powerful that the silence around them says everything. LeBron James, on the other hand, represents a different model of greatness, one that fits much more closely with the modern world. In 2025, having control over your platform is power. Being able to shape your own story is part of the game now. Legacy today doesn't only grow on the hardwood. It grows in interviews, documentaries, media companies, podcasts, and social platforms. In this era, adapting to the environment isn't weakness. Many people see it as intelligence. Both of these ideas make sense in their own way. Both approaches have their strengths, and both come with a price. But here's the uncomfortable part of Drexler's message that keeps people debating. The people who will ultimately decide where LeBron stands in basketball history are not just fans online. They are not only the people who watched his entire career unfold through highlight clips and social media posts. The opinions that carry the most weight often come from other players. The athletes who competed against him, the ones who guarded him, the ones who had to deal with him on the court when everything was on the line. And inside that circle, the community of players, the feeling toward LeBron has never been completely unanimous in the way it was with Jordan. That difference might be small, but it's there. And when Clyde Drexler spoke about it, he placed a spotlight directly on that gap. A spotlight that will be very difficult to turn off now. Because in the end, this story isn't just about two legendary players being compared. It's really about how we define greatness itself, and who gets to define it. Drexler never argued that LeBron lacks talent. That was never the point. His argument was that the path to respect, the path Jordan walked, is not the same road LeBron chose to take. And maybe in 2025, that original path doesn't even exist anymore. Maybe the world has changed so much that the old rules no longer apply to modern athletes. Or maybe, and this is the thought that keeps people debating late into the night, those old rules are still the only ones that truly matter. Maybe everything else around the conversation is just noise. One thing is absolutely certain, though. This debate is far from finished, and the fact that people are still having this argument while LeBron's career story is still being written says something powerful all by itself. The truth is, this debate isn't going away anytime soon. Years from now, people will still be arguing about this exact moment, about what Clyde Drexler said, about the silence that followed, and about what respect in basketball really means. Because when you strip everything down, this conversation isn't just about LeBron James or Michael Jordan. It's about two completely different visions of greatness colliding. One built on pure dominance and letting the game speak for itself. The other built in a modern era where image, media, and narrative move just as fast as the game on the court. And depending on who you ask, both sides believe they're absolutely right. Some fans believe greatness should only be proven between the lines, under the bright lights, with nothing else attached. Others believe the game has evolved, and the smartest players adapt to the world around them while still performing at the highest level. But now I want to hear from you. Do you agree with Clyde Drexler's take? Or do you think LeBron simply mastered the modern era of basketball? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this debate is far from settled. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves talking basketball. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.